Hi guys, Shay here. How you doing? Trust you're good. So I wanted to bring some quick updates about the Canada spousal open work permit because there's been some update and I wanted you to get it fresh from the pot. If you remember, on January 22nd, 2024, the Canada Immigration Minister made some very stunning policy revelations that a lot of us were not even expecting. And one of those policy updates was that not all spouses of international students to Canada will be eligible for the spousal open work permit. And he also told us that that policy will become effective in a few weeks' time. If you remember the last video that I made, I was wondering when will those few weeks' time be? And the few weeks' time has come. On March 19th, 2024, the IRCC, which is the Immigration and Refugee Canada, made a new announcement. They have given some updates on the spousal open work permit, and I want you to be aware of it. So if you are an international student or the spouse of an international student, you are on top of things and you know the next step to take regarding coming to Canada. As an international student in Canada, your spouse or partner must meet some eligibility criteria to be eligible for an open work permit as your spouse or common law partner. If your spouse or common law partner has already applied for their spousal open work permit before March 19th, 2024, your spouse or common law partner may be eligible for an open work permit if you meet the following requirements. One is that you have a valid study permit. And the second one is that you are eligible for a post-graduation work permit as an international student. And this would usually depend on the school that you attend in Canada. So your school must be PGWP eligible for your spouse to also be eligible for a spousal open work permit. If your spouse is applying for spousal open work permit after March 19th, 2024, then they are eligible if you meet the following eligibility criteria. Number one is that you as the international student hold a valid study permit and you are studying in either a master's or a doctoral degree program in a university or a polytechnic institution, or you are studying at one of the following professional degree programs at a university. Number one is a Doctor of Dental Surgery. Number two, Bachelor's of Law, that's LLB, JD, or BCL. Number three, a Doctor of Medicine or a Doctor of Optometry. Another program is Pharmacy, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, a Bachelor of Education, or a Bachelor of Engineering. Note that these are not all masters or PhD. So you either have to be studying at a master's or a PhD at the university level or a polytechnic, or you're doing one of these professional degree programs that I mentioned. And this is actually a breath of fresh air because it is so exciting to know that even spouses of international students who are not masters or PhD students, but who are in one of these professional programs can still apply for a spousal open work permit. That is really great in my opinion. I know it's not a lot of great news for those who are studying for a graduate certificate or a graduate diploma, but we're going to take what we get, right? In order for your spouse or common law partner to apply for their spousal open work permit, they must provide one of the following documents to prove your enrollment in a degree granting program of study. One is a valid letter of acceptance from your designated learning institute or your DLI. Number two is a proof of enrollment letter from your DLI. Three is transcripts from your current program. They may also be asked to provide additional documents such as proof of their relationship to you, the students. Now let's talk about those whose spouses are already in Canada on the spousal open work permit or already have a spousal open work permit whether they're in Canada or not. Will they be able to continue with their work permit and will they be able to extend it? Your spouse or common law partner may be able to extend their existing open work permit under this stream if you meet these three requirements. Number one, you hold a valid study permit. Number two, you are eligible for a post-graduation work permit. And number three, you are a full-time student at one of these types of schools that I'm going to mention. One is a public post-secondary school, such as a college or university, or a CEGEP in Quebec. Or you are in a private college level school in Quebec, or a Canadian private school that can legally award degrees under the provincial law. For example, they can award a bachelor's, a master's, or a doctoral degree. So a lot of you will ask, so what happens to my spouse if they are not eligible for a spousal open work permit? Because a lot of you want to come to Canada with your spouses, especially if you have kids, because you need help with your kids. So what is going to happen to the spouses of international students that are no longer eligible for a spousal open work permit? That is a very valid question. And it's actually a $64 million question. And I'm going to answer it for you. If your spouse is no longer eligible for an open work permit, they may be able to get an employer-specific work permit with an LMIA job. So what this means is that they may be able to get a job that is backed by an LMIA, and if they are able to do that, they can apply for an employer-specific work permit. I also want to let you know that your spouse can also apply for a visit visa to come visit you in Canada. The only limitation is that they can only stay in Canada a maximum of 6 months at a time on a visit visa. But then this is an opportunity for them to try to get that LMIA job so that they can apply for a closed open work permit that can enable them stay with you in Canada during the period of your study. It is also important for you to know that most of the time, your spouse or common law partner's work permit, that is the spousal open work permit, will be valid for the same period of time as your study permit. This does not apply with the employer-specific work permit because the length of an employer-specific work permit will actually depend on the employment contract that the person has with the employer. I know that this is not very good news for a lot of us who have spouses and have been planning to come to Canada with your spouses. And this is why I have been asking people who have spouses to hurry up and apply for their spouses before this policy becomes effective, which it now has on March 19th, 2024. I always like to see things in a positive light, and I always like to give things a positive spin. So even though this is disappointing news to a lot of us, we already knew before now that this was coming, and I believe that a lot of us already have plans on what to do. If you can, please try and study either at a master's or a PhD or in one of those professional programs so that you can get your study permit and your spouse can also get a spousal open work permit. If you liked this video, even though you didn't like the information, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already done that. I'll be sure to come back to you with more updates on this and other policy updates, as well as more news about studying in Canada, working in Canada, as well as living in Canada. In the meantime, why don't you watch this video where I talked about how you can write a perfect visa SOP for your study visa application. It's a really great watch and you will gain a lot of value from it. Bye.